Morning, everyone. Thank you, Sam, for that introduction. Priya, it's a pleasure to have you here. You've only been at Sky for around 10 months now, and I mean, it's quite the title that you have there. Chief Advertising, Group Data, New Revenue, lots going on. I'm curious how you've been settling into your role at Sky.
Sure. Well, good morning, everyone, and great to be here. Yes, I have a very cool job and maybe the world's longest title, but it's been great. So I started Sky about 10 months ago, and I would say I'm still settling rather than settled. My remit when I started was Sky Media, so our advertising business and new revenue, but recently expanded to include group data. And what I'd say the common theme across all three pieces of my remit really is collaboration. So each of these is a fundamentally collaborative function. So at Sky Media, we work closely with our content teams, news, ends, and sports. We work with our group data and technology teams because that underpins so much of our USP at Sky, innovation and technology. And we work with our partnership team because we manage our partners on a holistic basis. Sky Data is an end-to-end function. It goes all the way from the collection to the management to the governance of our data, and importantly, the analytics. And these analytics underpin a lot of our decision-making at Sky, and I'd like to see it underpin more of our decision-making from everything from pricing to packaging to our product roadmaps. The better we understand our customers, the more we can deliver for them. And then finally, new revenue. I would say this is slightly fuzzy, as all new business titles tend to be, but it really fundamentally comes down to how do we monetize our existing assets and capabilities in new and different ways. And a lot of it is, when you look at things from one perspective in Sky versus looking at it holistically across Sky, you generally get to different answers, and this is intended to pick up opportunities that really only make sense when you look at them holistically. So that's effectively the remit. And what I'd say about what attracted me to this role, and Sky in particular, is these are collaborative functions. I've built my career on those, and it's a sort of philosophy which is when we work together, we just achieve better results. It's a philosophy that Day and our CEOs really pushed, and it's been a fun 10 months to try and push that along in the company.
There's been many major developments just in your first couple of months at Sky. That includes inking a new distribution deal with your former company at Warner Brothers Discovery, excuse me, and also handling the fallout over underpayments that went back to 2017. I'm just curious what some of the key lessons for you have been, especially as it comes to working with key ad partners.
Yeah, I would say, I guess I can't escape my past too much because I've been dealing a lot with my former company, all in good ways, mind you. But I would say in terms of the underpayments issue that you point out, I've said this before, which is when Sky found out about these issues, it proactively notified partners and is in the process of working with them to fully reimburse them. That's the mark of an organization with high integrity. It's also what you do after that, which is we don't ever want this to happen again. We treat our partners with utmost respect. We want to have strong relationships. So we've made a lot of changes to make sure that doesn't happen again. And that what we learned is the complexity of our business had really grown. So the deals had become more complex, the way we managed our business become more complex, and the systems just weren't keeping up. And so what we've done is really try to simplify our deals where we can, so it's easy to track them. We've put in place better systems, more controls, more governance. And we've just hired a really seasoned executive, Lynette Cooley, who's well known in UK media circles, and her role is to make the lives of our media partners easier. She is going to be their key point of contact and look across all aspects of the relationship. So we're really trying to, not just from a back-end systems perspective, but from a front-end, be on the front foot with our partners. And I've spent a lot of time personally with partners over the last few months trying to rebuild relationships that naturally, given the issues, were somewhat frayed.
You mentioned simplicity, and that's definitely a theme that I will want to mention in a little bit. Going back to November, December time, you had your upfronts. That was the first time you were at upfronts. Sky revealed a new brand positioning with some jazzy copy called "Connection Means Everything." I'm curious, what does that ethos tangibly mean for advertisers and for your ad offering?
Well, if there's one thing everyone knows about Sky is we love a bit of jazzy copy. But Connections Means Everything goes beyond just sort of copy. It is our ethos. It is what underpins our approach to the market. It underpins our proposition. And it's really built on 4 pillars. It's built on our connections to consumers, which are deep and long-lasting. It's built on our connection to culture. We don't just reflect the culture, we form the culture, we create the moments that shape it. We are connected to our partners. We have a large portfolio of linear and digital partners, and we reach about 88% of the UK. And we're connected to innovation. As I said, that's always been the USP of Sky. And so we take all of those things, and what we like to think about is, how do we create better solutions for advertisers? How do you deliver engaged audiences, simplicity of transactions, and better outcomes? Now, I'm very conscious that there are many other media owners who could sit up here and say all those three things. But I fundamentally believe Sky is different, Sky is unique, because our connections are deeper and they're broader. So I'll give you a few examples. We're not just a TV business, we're a mobile and a broadband business as well. What that means is we're the only media owner who can match TV viewing data to broadband at scale. We have a panel of 4 million homes, and we have robust knowledge of our consumers and their behaviors. When we look at the portfolio we represent, we have premium programming from Warner Brothers Discovery, including TNT, from Paramount, including Channel 5, from AMC and Hearst, and I could go on. And these players invest a huge amount of money in their programming, which is all available to our audiences, and then we deliver to advertisers against it. And then finally, on innovation, look, we have the benefit, and it's a huge benefit, of being part of Comcast, which invests and has the ability to invest at a global level. And we benefit from that at the Sky level and certainly at the Sky Media level.
Can you expand a little bit on that? How exactly are you benefiting from your relationship with your parent company? Something that comes to mind just in the past couple months is Comcast's push to simplify TV buying through universal ads,
Yeah.
which is in the US market, or developing in the US market, but I assume will come to the UK at some point?
Well, I would love for it to. I'll say a couple of things about Comcast. I think I'll nod to Ben's presentation earlier, which is that, look, the global media world is becoming much more global, and scale really matters. We have scale through Comcast in a way that Sky by itself wouldn't, and we benefit from the stability of that balance sheet and the diversity of the income streams that they have. And then when it relates to specific initiatives, look, we collaborate across most things. So when a piece of content like The Day of the Jackal comes on Sky, it was a global event because Comcast made it that. It was on Peacock, it was in the States. The company really gets behind it. And then universal ads, look, I personally think it's a great idea. So for those who haven't read about it, Comcast announced this at CES earlier this year. And effectively what it is, it's a one-stop shop advertising platform. And it's intended to be, as my friend and colleague James Rook calls it, an easy button for advertisers. So the social companies have done a really good job of innovating and made it really easy to buy advertising. You can buy late, you can buy quickly, and if you're a small business, they've made it easy. TV has a premium profile. It's not as easy to buy as social. If we want to grow, we need to lean into that. If we want new sources of demand, we need to get them from smaller businesses. So Universal Ads is built on freewheel technology. It's built by Comcast, but it's not just Comcast inventory. They've collaborated with other publishers, such as Warner Brothers Discovery, with Fox, with DirecTV, and hopefully many others. And the idea is to have a deep pool of premium inventory that has self-serve and automated tools that makes the lives of our existing TV buyers easier so that they can buy later, and brings many more sources of demand onto the platform. So I don't see why a model like that shouldn't exist in the UK. It will have to change to some extent to accommodate the differences in the UK market, but it is something to aspire to, and it's something to aspire to on a collaborative basis.
A project like that does require a great deal of collaboration. Do you think the TV industry in the UK could be doing more to collaborate?
I actually think, look, I come from the US where for a long time, all companies sort of created individual solutions, which is great for you, but it's really hard for the advertiser and really hard for the agency. Then they have all of these individual solutions that aren't completely compatible. I think the UK has a rich history of collaboration. If you think about Thinkbox and Barb, the industry supported. If you think about C-Flight, it was a standard that was adopted across the industry. I think the willingness is there. And remember, when we think about the UK industry, there's a benefit that goes beyond just the money coming into advertising, which is the PSB invests in UK production. I think we all want a robust UK production sector, and that's how you ensure it, because you make sure that the broadcasters are as vibrant as they could be. So I strongly believe that the broadcasters can come together and create something.
I wanted to ask you a bit about sport as well, and Ben did a very good job keying this up in his presentation. Sport's, of course, very important to Sky's offering. I'm curious, how is Sky looking to capitalize on sport moving forward, especially as rights deals become both more valuable, but then also more expensive to retain?
Well, as Ben said, we invented the playbook a long time ago. And look, the playbook will keep changing, but we'll evolve in response to it. We've recently sort of locked up our major rights, and what we're now focused on doing is creating the best consumer experience. So we have Sky Sports Plus, where you can access a lot more content than you could on our linear schedule. In the sense of monetization, we've recently announced and will be launching something called our sports marketplace. And that's what intended to do. It's sort of, you can think of it as a mini version of Universal Ads, but it is democratizing access to sport inventory. We have sort of entry-level packages that you can buy if you are a new-to-sport buyer, so it's bringing new people in. And the idea really is to make it simple to access sports. I also want to say that, look, it's not just about sort of investing in access, it's also about pushing sport forward. So we're a huge investor in women's sports. We're the largest investor in women's sports in UK and Ireland. We've not just increased the broadcast hours, we've actually pushed to increase viewership. And the unique thing about women's sports is people want to know about the players. They follow individual players and they want to know about the lifestyles. And so we have this partnership with Hearst, where we can showcase those stories, and if you're an advertiser, you can buy on a cross-platform basis. So it's really thinking about all of the tools at your disposal. Yes, we have a subscriber base. Yes, we have unmatched sport coverage, but what are the other things you can do around it? And that's what we spend a lot of time thinking about.
Partnerships, innovations. It seems like a lot of the innovations that you're looking to develop are around the idea of simplification. What else is sort of in the pipeline of things that you'd like to see Sky develop in terms of new innovations, be it for advertisers or for consumers?
I mean, it's just as it's hard to predict what the TV ecosystem is going to look like 5 years from now, it's hard to predict sort of what we're going to do in response to it. I will say one thing about Sky is we never stand still. I think restless optimist is a good word that we've used to describe ourselves, because Sky's always been a leader, it's always been a disruptor. And we've had this ethos, which has been believe in better. And you saw up there, when Sky was created, believe in better was about choice. It was about bringing UK consumers more choice of content, of film, of shows. That's now evolved. So we've rolled out a new brand and values. And it's less about choice because there is a lot of choice in content, perhaps too much. It's now about ease. And so what we're really focused on is how do we bring consumers the content they love in the ways they want to watch it? How do we create mobile and broadband solutions that just work? And how do we put all of that in a package that creates products that just fit people's lives? So we think about creating programming through our own studios. We think about licensing sport and doing the coverage in a way that only Sky can. We think about news and our award-winning coverage. We think about licensing content from others, including the old school way, but we also aggregate. So we aggregate, as you saw, through Netflix. We've announced a deal with HBO Max when it launches. Our goal is to make consumers' lives easier, and we will continue to evolve our product set to do that.
We have a couple minutes left, and I want to ask you a couple big picture questions as well. Much is made at conferences like this about TV audiences shifting away from linear. Yesterday we heard about how pay TV models are likely needed to change at some point in the future, and that was heard from Virgin. Sorry. I can yell very loudly if need be, but thank you. Thank you. I'll reclaim my time from the chair. So as I was saying, there's much is made about shifting audiences. I'm curious, first of all, how do you expect TV audiences to change in 5 years' time, say, and what should Sky and other broadcasters really be doing to meet that moment?
I've been in media a really long time. Sorry. Now both the mics. I was saying I've been in media a really long time, and I ran strategy and M&A for a big US media company when I was based out in the States. And we've been talking about sort of the prediction of the breaking of the pay TV model, the evolution. And the reality of it is, the disruption has happened both faster and slower than we'd expected, in the sense that the streaming companies have grown faster, but pay TV has held on in the US longer than people thought. So it's sort of, I can do is sort of extend current trends. And I think the extension of current trends would lead you to believe that people are increasingly going to watch more things on a scheduled basis rather than a linear basis, or more on demand. And we see that on our own platform. So I think our VOD audiences grew nearly 15% year over year. If you look at Sky's wholly owned content, about 20% is viewed on demand. But if you look at the younger cohorts, if you look at 16 to 34, that number doubles, and it will continue to grow. And when we look at dramas in particular, it's quite stark. Like 60% of the viewership of The Jackal was on demand. The overnights, if that means anything anymore, were about 700,000. Within 7 days, that number was 3 million, and now it's 6.2 million. So I think the idea of success, the idea of measurement has somewhat changed, and we have to adapt our models accordingly. We're also cognizant that a lot of people aren't going to watch content on the same platform. Like TikTok, YouTube, all of those are platforms that particularly younger cohorts are watching. And we're leaning into that. We've been producing original content for YouTube, bespoke content rather, for YouTube for about 5 years. We're the leading news and sport publisher on YouTube. And so it's a way of expanding your audience, and whether you're using it for exposure or monetization, both are valuable. The final thing I'll say is, live viewing is still really important, and Ben showed us all the ways in which sport is really important, and it is. Like, the majority of viewership in the UK is still live, and a lot of that is driven by sport. We had our biggest Premier League season last year, outside of the pandemic, and that shows you the convening power of sport. And it's a highly engaged audience. People watch together, and there's still a lot of value in that. So before we throw the baby out with the bathwater, I think the idea really is to be everywhere that consumers are, is the way that I think about it.
So does TV need a new definition or a way for us to think about it?
It depends. Do you mean TV as in that TV set, or do you mean TV as a standard?
As a media channel.
We think of TV as an environment, as a standard, right? Like, we use it to signify quality, to signify premium. Now, what we do is we gather premium content in all the ways that I pointed out, by producing, by licensing, by aggregating. But then, and we still believe the best way to showcase a brand is on TV. But then and I also come from Warner's, a studio. We think the bigger the TV, the better the experience, right? It's a movie studio after all. But ultimately, the consumer has the choice, and our job is to make it easy for them to watch on the big TV, on their screen, on the go. So I think we have to think about it, again, as an environment and a standard rather than a specific device.
Final question, if you could just summarize in a sentence, which I know is going to be a challenge. In order for TV to evolve the revenue pie and grow that pie, what does TV need to do?
Look, I give very long answers, so you're asking me to do this in a sentence. I think collaboration and thinking about solutions for the industry rather than individual solutions is the way to do it. Because I don't think we'll succeed if we each go off on our own paths trying to develop this. I think it's sort of the all boats rise scenario. That's how we do this, because ultimately when you say TV has to evolve, what we're really talking about is how do you keep the money within TV? And the way you do that is to have better solutions and better experiences for the people who do invest money in TV.
Priya Dogra, thanks so much for your time.